Today we are meeting with high school graduate Jailey Hall and her mom, Alicia. Welcome.
No.
So just for a little bit of background, Jailey, you entered into this year's Graduate of the Year contest with a really impressive submission. So I'm honored to let you both know that you're a finalist this year. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you're only 14 years old and you finished your high school program with a 3.95 GPA. That's amazing. You were interested in learning outside of a traditional school for a while, but with the pandemic, that finally kind of gave you the opportunity to give it a try. So first off, what made you want to look at online school as an option?
In school, there wasn't really enough options to keep me engaged in it. And I was constantly bored or finished with my work early and having nothing else to do. And once the pandemic came, we switched to online schooling and I was able to go at my own pace and I really loved that. So that's when we discovered Penn Foster.
That's great. That was actually going to be one of my questions later on. When you were in traditional school, did you feel like you were obviously, being 14 and finishing high school, you're clearly a very bright, intelligent young person. So did you feel like you were bored a lot of the time in school, like you were getting done faster than everybody else?
Yeah, I was almost always done with all of my work and there was nothing else extra the teachers could give me. So I'd end up just sitting with the rest of the class reading a book.
So how did you come across Penn Foster?
We were researching online schools and we had some friends recommend it and we started looking into it.
So in your application, you mentioned that through hard work and self-discipline, you were able to prove to your parents that this was a task you were up for. So first, I want to go to you, Alicia. What did you think when she first brought up online school?
I was kind of hesitant at first, and I did a little bit more research on it, and I thought it was a good fit. My husband, he kind of fought the idea for a while. He was afraid she would miss out on a lot of experiences in normal school, but, like I told him, she's never really liked going to dances and things like that. So I said, let her try. Don't hold her back.
And so, for you, Jailey, what did that hard work and self-discipline look like? Like, what did you specifically have to do to try and convince them and prove yourself?
All throughout the pandemic, I was online and we had a work at your own pace program and there was deadlines to meet for the week for each student. And I ended up in 7th grade, finished several months early and ended up just doing random classes. And in 8th grade, I was already super far ahead and was almost finished with all of the work. So that helped prove that I would be able to keep on task and stay on track with my learning.
Awesome. So did you find it difficult at all to adjust? I mean, obviously you had a little bit of that experience due to the pandemic of being online and going at your own pace, but this is obviously a little bit of a different type of program. So did you have any issues adjusting to it? Obviously it takes a lot of discipline. And how did you just manage your time and get yourself into that groove of, learning in a totally different manner?
It was a lot of reading and I love reading. So it really wasn't that hard for me. I would spend a couple hours each day going over different things. And that's just how I went through it all.
So, socializing, I want to go back a little bit to what you mentioned, Alicia, socializing and those other, traditional experiences in a traditional school are sometimes a big concern for parents, like it was, for your dad. Do you, Jailey, feel like you missed out on anything that you would have experienced? Or Alicia, is there anything that you wish she could have done? Or are you happy overall with the experience? And do you feel like, you got everything you needed?
I don't feel that I missed out on a whole lot because I never really went on field trips or went to dances. I just aren't interested in that. and I'm pretty happy with what all I've accomplished.
And she has been on the academic team before, and so she has had, a little bit of socialization, but yeah, she never was much into that. So, she's going to get plenty of socializing with college students now. So,
Definitely. So were there any subject, I mean, again, going back, you're clearly extremely intelligent, very bright, very hardworking, but were there any subjects that you did struggle with? And if so, how did you get yourself through that?
The electives I took were pretty hard, but where it's a work at your own pace, I was able to go back through and go through it as many times as I needed.
Oh, that's great. Well, what electives did you take?
The healthcare career pathway.
Oh, excellent. Was there any class in there in particular that you found difficult, and was there one in particular that you really enjoyed?
The pharmacology courses were pretty difficult, but I also really enjoyed them.
That's great. So, Alicia, did you feel like she had the right amount of academic support and information that she needed, or did you feel like at least it was accessible if she did need it? And what about you from a parent's perspective, if you needed to deal with, anybody on the other end of education? Did you feel like if you had to get in touch with Penn Foster, did you find that to be an easy process? Were your questions answered relatively quickly or easily and thoroughly?
Yeah, I mean, usually if we had any issues, we would just email them or call them, and they got back to us very fast. So, yeah, we had no issues with it.
That's great. So you mentioned taking the healthcare pathway. And come fall semester, you will be going to college. Where will you be attending?
UPike.
Awesome. So, what are your long-term goals?
I want to go to medical school and become a neurologist.
That's amazing. So do you feel like your coursework influenced the decision to go into medicine, or did you already kind of have an interest in that, and did Penn Foster kind of help nurture that with the type of pathways that we offer?
I've always had an interest in medicine, but with the healthcare program, I got to see what it was like more, and it kept me interested in it.
That's great. Is there any particular reason why you've decided neurology is kind of the direction you want to go, or is it just really fascinating
It's
to
just
you?
fascinating.
It definitely, I could definitely see that. I think it is really a very interesting subject. So do you feel like, I mean, obviously, again, we've mentioned it a few times, you're 14, you're very young, but, I'm a firm believer in age is just a number. I've met adults who can be very mature, and some younger, teens who are extremely mature and carry themselves in a really adult manner. But do you feel like in terms of your academics and just your overall background, do you feel like Penn Foster has prepared you for this next step of college?
They have, because with their courses, I was able to make sure I understood it all and just keep going over things as many times as I would like.
That's great. And so I want to go back a little bit, actually. So I know you mentioned in the application that you studied and took your tests every morning and every evening. So that's a lot. I feel like for anybody, just in general, schoolwork can get to be tedious at times, and sometimes you're in the mood to do stuff and sometimes you're not. But it seems like you were pretty determined on your pathway, and that, you had a plan in mind and you were set on it and you really followed through. But how did you keep yourself motivated to continue doing that and stay so diligent with your schoolwork?
I wanted to start college this fall in August, so I had to make sure that I finished before the deadline started to enroll. And I figured I would be at school all day anyway if I was in person, so I didn't have any issues with just spending all day on Penn Foster.
That's great. And Alicia, how did you ever feel like she was doing too much, or did you ever advise her to take a break, or, do you just know did you just know that she's totally capable of it and this is her thing, and just, let her kind of manage it as she felt was best?
There's been a time or two. I told her she didn't feel, I didn't feel that she needed to push herself as hard, that she could catch up the next week. And she's like, no, I know exactly what I want to do, how many tests I need to take, So I just let her take the reins and do her thing.
Great. And so obviously, you're going to go to college in the fall. What was that process like? Were there any discussions with the school you're going to in terms of, when they saw your age, or, were there any issues with you having an online education, or was it pretty much smooth sailing?
At first, there was a lot of issues with my age. They had to keep contacting different people to see if I could be enrolled there. The youngest person to have been enrolled there before me was 16. And he had to have a meeting with the dean of the school and everything to be enrolled there. So they didn't know what I would have to have. And there wasn't really many issues with it being an online school. They have had people from Penn Foster be accepted there before.
That's great. Was that like a concern for you at first, whether or not, okay, well, I'm going to an online school, or I plan to go to an online school. How is this going to affect me going into college or applying for college?
Before we enrolled with Penn Foster, we went down to the college and we sat with them and talked to them about if they accepted it and if I could be accepted at my age with it.
So you did a lot of like pre-planning, which is obviously, a good approach to take. Did they automatically say like, yeah, Penn Foster diploma is perfectly acceptable, or did they have to look into it at all? Was there any sort of like question about it, or because they already had Penn Foster students, was everybody kind of aware in that process that, no, this is a totally acceptable, accredited program?
They accepted Penn Foster right away, but it was difficult because of my age to accept me. But
did you ever feel discouraged by that? Because I'm assuming it took, a little bit of time to get that answer from them, whether or not, they would be able to accept you at your age. What was that waiting process like? How did you feel?
It did take a lot of time for them to finally get back to us, but it was really worrying about whether or not I could start this year, if I'd have to wait a year.
Did you, in that time, ever consider going to a different school, or were you set like that's the one you want to go to?
We were set on this one, but there is another one over in town we were talking to, and they said I would 100% be accepted there with my age and everything, but we were pretty set on this one.
That's good. So how did it feel when you finally got the answer that like, yes, you're good, you're in?
It was great.
So I have to ask, Alicia, how do you feel about all of this? Her finishing so early, enrolling in college early. Do you feel like she's well prepared for this next step?
I do. I was a little concerned with her age going, doing all the studying and stuff, but they have a lot of tutors there that can help her. And we talked to them all on the campus, and I feel a lot better about the situation.
That's definitely, I know as a mom, you worry no matter what. So I understand that the worry is going to be there, but knowing that, she has that support system, I'm sure is very helpful. Will you be staying at home, or will you be staying on campus?
At home.
And I want to go back a little bit more to here. I know in your application you mentioned that your family adopted 4 girls from foster care and that you help with their academic shortcomings. What does that look like? How do you help them out? And what does that look like in the day-to-day, and how did they feel about it? How did they feel about you enrolling in college so early?
They were surprised, but like my little sisters, they have some struggles in like math and things like that, and I'll help them with that, with their homework when they need it. And my older sisters sometimes will ask me different things to help them.
That's nice. Do your parents ever direct you to give them help, or was that something that just, or did they ask you, or is that just something that naturally comes to you? Like, you know what, this, I know I'm good at this. I know this information I can pitch in here and wherever else.
A lot of the times I just go to them and see what they need help with.
That's really nice. That must mean a lot to them to have that. I know I struggled with certain subjects when I was in high school. And unfortunately, my older siblings struggled with the same ones. So it's hard when you don't have somebody like at home who can help you out. So that must be very encouraging for them. Finally, Jailey, if you were to talk to another person in a similar situation to yourself, or even older, say it's, one of your sisters, about if you were talking to them about why Penn Foster could be a good fit for them, what would you tell them?
I would say that it was a lot of reading in each subject, but there are a lot of people there that would help you if you needed help with anything, and to definitely do your research on what colleges would accept you, especially if it has anything to do with your age.
And Alicia, finally, what would you say to other parents about the Penn Foster experience?
I've had a wonderful experience with her going through this. I would definitely recommend it. And it's really prepared her for college, and we're excited to see what the future holds.
Well, we're excited to see the amazing things that are coming up in your life. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.